Right, so we got to sort of nearly this point last night, didn't we? Do you remember? We got to the point where we had just about, well, I had stitched from memory, I think it was 12 of these strips I'd stitched together, and I said I would obviously finish them as my own homework today, which is what I did. And I know, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, all those wonderful photographs that I have seen in the Making It Monday group. It's been, do you know what? It's been absolutely super. Firstly, it means I know that you're all following along now. I get this feeling that you've got your confidence with it, and that you're feeling okay about what you've done. I mean, I know some of you haven't particularly liked your colour choices. Some of your colour choices may be, it's everything, isn't it? It's a lesson learnt. It's like, you know, there's been dark colours, light colours, there's been lots of patterns, and see, these are patterns, but they're almost like blender patterns, aren't they, rather than in your face patterns. So it's been a real journey for a lot of us to have a look at what everybody has done. Right. We're going to cut our piece. Now look, if you're not quite up to this stage yet, it does not matter. You can take your time. It could be that you're just watching and you're going to have a little go in your own peace and quiet of your own brain cell. I totally get that. I don't want anybody to feel pressurised into anything. So I'm going to just stand up, I'm going to cut my piece so we're all neat and tidy. I know one or two of you have got ahead of the game. That's all right. That's okay. I'm assuming you're just going to sit and watch now. So I'm going to cut, very straightforward and standard, and we did talk about it a little bit last night. So I'm just going to kind of get it on my table. Now obviously this is a very long piece. Ignore this bit here. You can ignore all of that. All we're going to do is take our ruler and rotary cutter, and we're going to lay it across the points. So these are the points I'm talking about, here and here and here and here, and we'll do our very best to keep our cutting straight. It may go off slightly. What's this say, Helena? Lizzie, this project with you has given me my sewing mojo back. Helena, that has made my day. I can't even tell you how pleased I am to hear that, because you've been through the wars, you certainly have. So, ruler, try and get a biggish one. This is a 14-inch, and in actual fact, I use this all the time. I've got one of these 6 by 24, yeah, but I find it too big for me. But if you can manage with it, that's great. So we're just literally going to line this up, as I say, best we can, and just take those points off. Now somebody, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said earlier that they're trying to think of ways that they can use these triangles. Well, why not stitch them together? Those points there, the seams there won't meet, but you could square that off and have a little tiny, perhaps 1 3/4 inch square. It would be like a sort of half square triangle, won't it? So why not? Because this is such a lovely fabric, I'm kind of tempted myself really, but no, I just have to move on to the next thing. I can't dilly-dally. So you can see, as long as you're careful, you can take all these points off and just go steady. There's no prizes for going super speedy and being the first one finished. It's all about slow and steady winning the race. And although, and I've gone off the screen, I know I have, but I'll bring it back. Although we are going to be trimming this a bit off here, I've still taken all the points off, all the triangles off, because visually that helps. Because we know we're going to trim about here-ish, about there. So if I hadn't trimmed there, that could put my eye off. So just do the whole lot. I know some of you try to be really frugal, I understand that, but sometimes you just have to stop being so concerned about things like that, because actually in the whole grand scheme of things it doesn't matter. Now when we're coming down this side, I kind of touched on this last night, you want to be aiming, do you see how the seams are coming in? You want to still aim for that outside point there, okay? So you're not aiming for this internal one here, for want of a better phrase. You're aiming still for that, I don't know, I hope you can see that quite clearly. So you're not aiming for the outside edge of this one, you're aiming for the outside edge of this one, so it's that point there, okay? And again, we're just going to do our best to trim all these back so they just look gorgeous. So take your time. I know a lot of you, you know, struggle with your cutting and all of that sort of thing. I can't make that any better for you, other than just go slow and take your time, and it'll all come right. I promise. And whatever happens, we can fix it, can't we? Yes, yes, Lizzie, we can. Oh dear. So, all the way up to the top. As I say, don't worry about the fact that we're going to be cutting these away, you know, don't worry about that. Look, it's just untidy. Let's get rid of it and just get it nice and neat. Oops. Just get it nice and neat. There we go. So now we have this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous strip of fabric. Looks amazing, doesn't it? Like, whatever your fabric is, let me get rid of my triangles, yours will look amazing as well. Now obviously we've got to trim this. I don't want you to worry about your length, because I know some of you are slightly different. So but you've got to get rid of this. You can't avoid it. So let's just go for it. But what you want to do is make sure you're cutting a straight line. So just make sure the line of your ruler's there, and then you'll get a lovely 90-degree cut. It looks a bit wonky there, but I'm ignoring it. And there we go. So again, of course, now you've got a bit of spare. So what you could do is, when you cut this other end, you'll have a matching pair, sort of. So let's just line it up. Just do it. I know there's lots of stitching going on there, and possibly blood, sweat and tears, but do cut it. Go crazy and cut it. So there we are. So look at, oh gosh. Yeah, actually that absolutely matches up, doesn't it? Doesn't it? I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, that actually does match. Does it? I'm doubting myself. So obviously you can stitch that together, make a gorgeous little mat. I've got a little mat that I put under my kettle about a couple of years ago, and it's never moved. Goodness knows what it's like underneath. But so you can make yourself a little mat, maybe to put your kettle on, or your cup of tea, or something like that. Have in your room to have as a little pot stand. But don't throw that away. Where I'm saying just get rid of your scraps. This one I think definitely worth keeping. I don't know what I did with my other ends. I should have to look for them. So let's pop that to one side. So now we've got one long piece again. Whoop. Okay, and all I want you to do is literally fold it in half and find the middle, and whatever that ends up being, I'm hoping mine, just a minute for you, I was hoping mine was going to be about 16 and a half, and I think it's 17, but whatever yours is, that's what you're working with. Okay. Yes, Nicola, it is. Why, have you done yours in denim then? Nicola says it would be lovely as the front of a pouch. Well, of course, as Abigail said in the last hour, Nicola has got a bit of a rep for denim. Just keeping an eye on the comments, because last night we had a couple of spammers. They have gone. In fact, let me just mark this side. So I'm just marking the halfway. You could put your iron on this if you want. I'm just going to mark it. You could pop a pin in. You know all the tricks. Now, Polly had a very good idea which I would share with you. Polly is somebody I know who's quite local to me, actually. Lovely lady, and she's friends with my bestest crafting friend Tracy, and who I don't see from one year to the next, but we are bestest crafting ladies, friends. She suggested when you cut your strips to use a stripology ruler or the equivalent thereof, and that is a really good idea if you've got one. So if you've got a stripology ruler, when you do your strips, you know, when you're doing all your cutting, I think that would be a brilliant idea. What's this? You could cut off one end and stitch it to the other. Actually, Anne, you could if you thought. Sorry, I've got an itchy nose. If you thought that would work and you needed that extra length, yeah, it's worth a try, isn't it? Gosh, we've learned so much. So I'm just going to cut it. Oh, don't cry. Don't cry. Look at that. So now we have the front of our cushion nearly. I'm sorry, I'll just move that now again. Let me bring it down, see if I can get both in there. And that's beautiful. I don't want you to worry, because all of this, if you think how much stitching we have done to create this, I don't really want you to worry about whether that point is lined up with that, because once we start doing that, we're going to lose quite a bit. If it irks you, do it, okay? Because you've got to live with it. So if it really gets on your wick, cut it so your points are level. But I can almost guarantee that none of you would have looked to have seen if my points were level. Look, they're not. They're almost, well, they're not even halfway, look. But I bet none of you saw that, because it's such a busy design, okay? So all of these things are meant for you to be bearing in mind and not being too hard on yourselves, because I know you are. Okay. I've got something exciting. The exciting thing is I've got you two choices of how to finish the centre, okay? Because I am going to do the cushion. Although when you had that really long strip, obviously you could have made it into a table runner. You could do a ton more and make it into a quilt. But I'm going to stick to the plan, which is to make another Seminole cushion, because obviously Abigail is expecting one. Adrienne hasn't said she wanted one. I'm not going to take that as a slight. I'm not going to get offended. Anyway, I've got two choices for you for the centre, which is a bit of a change of plan. But we're not deviating too much. Now I've got another one of my fabulous diagrams. You'll be thrilled to know. You'll be thrilled to know. Let's just have a quick look. We're all right with that. Yep, okay. I'm gonna pop you on the overhead. So, for your centre strip, and obviously you might not want to do, Adrienne, get lost. I bags did them already. So for your centre strip, and you don't have to do this, it's almost like a belly band, isn't it? Let me bring it in. I mean, I quite like it, but you may not. Okay, so I'm giving you two choices here, and you'll be able to do this with the fat quarters that you've got, that you've used. So for the strip, you're going to cut two 1-inch strips, and you're only going to cut along the width of your fat quarter. Now when we cut, and I know some of you didn't do this because you've said you haven't got enough your strips are too short. But when we cut our strips, I wanted you to fold it so the selvage was, so if it was a full width of fabric, it would be width of fabric. Your selvage and your selvages would meet together, okay? But we got a fat quarter. So we've got our selvage and we've got the cut, right? That's the fold that we're doing. And I know perhaps, you have to forgive me, so I'm doing English paper piecing with this. Perhaps some of you cut like this, which I did say not to do, but there we are. I know some of you don't listen. So when you cut these 1-inch strips and this strip here, you're cutting on the longest edge, okay, the longest edge. That way you'll easily go across that 16.5, 17 inches of your cushion front easily. You may not if you've been chopping away and you're going to go this way, okay? So the main thing to say is you need to cut the width of your cushion. So let me just pop that away for one moment, because this I've got to try and make this clear for you. So whatever you've ended up with, and I shall cut mine down to 16.5, is the length that you're going to cut these. Now I know these are 17, okay, mine are 17, yours may not be. So you want to cut a 1-inch and a 1-inch times, for me, 17 inches, okay? And I will use my orange and yellow, because if you look at my original cushion, I've used the yellow and green, okay, and I've repeated it because having cut all your strips to do your Seminole, you haven't got that much left of your other fabrics, okay? You have got enough, but anyway. So I'm going to leave that for you to decide. This is your cushion. You have to decide what's best for you. But you need to cut 2 1-inch strips. And we will do, I don't suppose it really matters. I'll do the orange as the orange. Let me have a look again. Yeah, I'll do the orange as the orange and the yellow as the yellow, like that. So these are going to be 1-inch yellow, and that's going to be the orange, okay? Whatever you have decided to do, it doesn't matter, as long as perhaps you use those colours there because you've got the most of that fabric. So that's the measurements. I shall put this in the groups. That's the measurements you need to make the strip. However, I've also given you this as well, and you've got enough fabric to do yourself a Seminole strip. It's I think it's a tad wider. So of course I've made one because I know we wouldn't have time tonight. I've made one in preparation. Now I will go ahead and cut this, because this is what we're making, the cushion. But I couldn't resist showing you this. So this is a smaller version of that. You have enough fabric to do this, okay? And all you're cutting, let me think if I can say this a different way. The only thing you're missing out is this outside colour, okay? So this is what you're cutting. So when we look at the original cut, hold on, let me get my piece of paper. When we look at the original pattern, all I've done is not cut the purple. All I've done is cut these here, which is these, okay? And that once they're stitched together, as you have already done for this, that will make that. And I think that looks really lovely, really lovely. But I'm going to do it as the pattern because that's only fair. I don't want to frighten anybody, but that didn't take me long to pop together, so it's possible, isn't it? It's possible, and it's another option. Now this was 18 strips, so in other words, once I had stitched them together like this, there were 18 strips. I knew it would be too long, and then I trimmed it right back. Okay, and I'll put a photograph of it in the group so you can have a little look at it. So I trimmed it back, so I had a 1/4 inch seam allowance here and here. Okay, so obviously once I stitch that, I'll lose the blue and I'll have the points of the squares, hopefully. So I think that for some of you that might be worth a try. But that was 18 pieces, and you can see it's that bit too big, but that could go on the front of a pouch, so I was never worried about doing too much. Okay, so I thought I would show you that. I hope I haven't confused the heck out of you again, which I'm very good at, it seems. But what we will do is we will stick to the rules, and I'm going to cut 2 yellow strips, kind of width of fabric with the selvage, so you can see the selvage across the top there, 1 inch, and then the orange is 1.75, so 1 3/4 inches. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to stitch them together, and then I'll stitch my 2 more big pieces to that to make the cushion front, really. So let me get my fabrics ready. So there's the orange. So stand up again, sorry guys. See next week's washing. Listen, if any of my buttons come undone, do tell me. So do pop these buttons. And then I'm having underwear troubles today. Right, so from the orange I'm cutting 1 3/4 inches. Okay, 1 3/4 inches. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. 1 3/4. Okay, and I'm going to do the whole width because we can always trim and use that for other things, as you know. Is that 1 3/4? Yeah. And then these, the yellow, we're going to cut. Let me get that way. So there's my selvage up the top there, look. You can see it. Let me move it so you can see it. So we're going to cut 2 1 inch strips. So we're doing well, aren't we, guys? I think, anyway. I think you've done incredibly well. I can't remember now how many different Seminole patchwork pieces. Let me just check that's an inch. Yep. That I have seen. I've seen loads. I should have to do a count up. So I'm taking pictures of every single one, and then I can post some. I've already posted some already, as you may have seen. Right, so just get myself a little bit more organised. So I'm going to bring the machine in, I'm going to stitch those together. So that's just regular stitching, so nothing to be worried about. Obviously you've got to be mindful of your 1/4 inch seam allowance, and obviously you could pin all these if you want to hold them all in place. I probably wouldn't use clips because it's a little bit heavy on this just this single layer of fabric. Pins are ideal, but obviously I'll just take this to the machine and start machining. Just bear with. If I use the right mouse, will be good. Now then, Patsy says, just looked up the Seminole skirts. They are beautiful. Yes, they are, Patsy. Now, don't you think they're really lovely and crispy and clean looking? I mean, they're just lovely. Yeah, we're very lucky to have the sort of resources that we do. We really do. We're very lucky. Wikipedia is very good, but you just Google what you need to know, and it tells you. It's very clever. Right, so 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you've got a walking foot, it's always good to use a walking foot, and then your fabrics don't get banana shaped so much. Just take your time with your stitching. I know I sometimes look like I'm going super fast, but that's what I'm kind of used to, really. Give it a good iron. Patsy says yes, they are lovely and bright and crisp, and I love the rick rack on them. I'd forgotten about that, but I know I've now I've read it, I remember seeing them with the rickrack on. Really striking. And I knew that they were from the Native Americans, which is always a joy, isn't it? Yeah. So there's our two pieces stitched together. So I'm going to give that a lovely iron. So I'll just set myself up, and then I'll go back to the overhead. Away with it. Right. So all I've done. Look at that. It's gorgeous, isn't it? All I've done is got those seams beautifully flat. You can, like I say, you can set the seams if you want to. Sometimes it's a little bit time restrictive for me, but that's our beautiful band that goes across the middle. I'm just checking mine. Yeah, it does look about the same. So we're going to now attach this to our big I keep wanting to say borders. They're not really borders, are they? Jackie says, I daren't buy the big buzzers. Once I've started, I eat it all. I'm quite good at only one strip a day, Jackie. Yeah, I know. It's dreadful, isn't it? But I'm quite good at that. So I can... Oh, that's a bit wonky. I can sort of trust myself with that. Right, so I've only trimmed one end. There's no point trimming it all at the moment. Helena says she's been shoveling 4 foot of snow in the back garden that fell over winter. She needs a path to uncover the trees at the bottom of the garden. Wow. 4 foot of snow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so obviously we know that this is a wee bit longer because we've already cut our piece, and we know this is smaller than the width of a fat quarter, don't we? So what I'm going to do, because I did a bit wonky, I'm just going to start off. I could straighten it up, but you know, life's a bit short. So I'm just going to start a wee bit off the edge, and then I'll trim it, okay? Christine says, how can you be that good with chocolate? I don't know, I can be really self-disciplined sometimes. I could easily eat the whole thing, easily, but then I have this inner voice that says to me, well, I won't even tell you what my inner voice says. It's not kind. Yeah, I'd be twice the size, wouldn't I, if I... Oh gosh. So I am pinning, because we've got quite an unstable edge here, haven't we? We've got quite an unstable edge because all of this is bias. We've got seams here that will easily come undone if we tugged at it and fiddled and faffed about. So I would suggest that you treat this with utter caution. You could, if you wanted to, run a top stitch all the way along here to stabilise that. You could have some stabilizer on the back of your work again to stabilize these edges here, because you know, at little corners like this could easily rip off if we're not careful. So I am pinning, which is unusual for me, but I want this to be secure. Oh, here comes Millie. Who heard Millie last night? John's editing the videos and he said, what on earth's all that noise? I said, that was your dog. Because she got hold of my Indian fabric, didn't she? Okay, so I'm just going to do that, look, and I'm going to save that bit. It's lovely. Okay, so I've pinned one, so I'm going to run my seam along there. Let's just take you there for a memento. So be careful with your 1/4 inch seam allowance now. I went just a little bit wonky there. So it's easier to stitch on your belly band, for want of a better expression, than this, okay? Because obviously you've got a gazillion seams there, so it's easier to stitch on your on the band. Let's call it the band. Okay. So there's the first bit. Whoa! Whoa! Don't be frightened of using bright fabrics, because look at that. Whoa! So now what we're going to do, we've got to line this up properly, because of course I didn't trim my sides, which means, and I'm not looking at points, matching, all of that. I'm not doing any of that. But what I want to do is make sure that both my pieces are sitting on top of each other, because I want to trim it down anyway, because I want this to be about 16.5 inches square. So again, we're going to pin and sew from the band side. The band side. Let's see. Well, who else has done what? Right, let's just shift that along where it's supposed to be. So we're matching up these. Yeah. So if I do that, you're matching that up, not this, because I didn't trim it. I suppose you could trim it so it's all just looking gorgeous, but I'm going to trim it back anyway. You may not want to. You may want to keep it whatever size it's ended up being. Okay, so we're going to stitch all the way along there and give that a good press as well. Oh, come on, let me give you a flash. Oh, let me fill the screen with flashness. There we are, let me hold it so you can... I've got my arm in the way now. Gosh. Right. Flash! I'm going to give it a press. Now I saw Tilly Frilly O'Neill. I went to the flea market. Oh, missed it. Where is it? Flea market. Took a picnic. Flea market and auction. Sorry, the words are going up really quickly. Oh my gosh. Right, so we want to press these seams. Now, I would suggest, because of the width of our strips and because the widths of our seam allowances, these two seams are going to sit nicely. Can you see? It's almost like a bias binding where you got the two raw edges coming to the centre. Can you see what that looks like? So that is how we're going to press it. I'm going to do a little bit from the front, not much, just a wee bit. And then I'm going to go to the front. So I'm on the back, obviously, and I'm just doing a little bit, just to make sure that those seams do as they're told, okay? But I'm going to flip this over. So I'm happy with that now. Look, they're all sitting nicely. They're all behaving themselves. But this is where we need to make sure that, do you see the little pleats that you can get if you don't press this properly? So you need to push this out. Okay, push it out, open it up, work at it, do it right, get it right. I can't stress the ironing bit enough. Pull it out. You're not pulling it tightly, you're just giving it enough tension to open the seam up, and if it doesn't want to, you come the other way and tell it who's boss. That is looking delicious. So then, oh, where's my sew flat? Oh no. So use your best press sew flat, whatever you happen to have. I'm sure Abigail will be doing more sew flat. I don't know if she's got any stock. I haven't looked. We don't get time to keep up with each other, really. But it does make a difference. Makes it really crispy. But keep those seams spread. You don't want pleats at all. Oh, that looks delicious. Look at that. Okay. So now we've got that far. It's a bit better. I really want this to be 16.5 inches square, but what I'm going to do first of all is just trim these bits off, and then maybe I'm just going to cut one end, because obviously I know this edge and this edge are absolutely perfect. I might trim a little bit off to make this a bit squarer, but let's just see how we go. A lot of this is down to the fact that you've done huge amounts of cutting and stitching. So if I said to you it had to end up being exactly this or that, I doubt any of you would actually achieve that. I defy anybody to be that accurate, I really do. So there's our just about, I think it's a square, thereabouts. we could trim that a bit, back a bit. So that's the best way to handle this. So let's just do it by the count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So just a smidge off this side. So I'm just going to go down one side. I'm not going to do two, that would be silly. So just one side. So that's 16 and a half. So we know that across there is 16 and a half, but this I think needs to be trimmed back a bit now. So I might have to take off a little bit on each side. I'm happy with that, I'm fine, because we're still seeing the majority of the pattern there, okay? I love it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh! So it's a bit shorter. Let's try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and a quarter. Ooh, ooh. Okay. Let's do that one again then. Let's take that little bit off there. There we go. And that will then be square. And I'm absolutely fine with that. And of course, if you put a 16-inch cushion pad in there, and after we've done our done our cushion, it'll really puff it out beautifully. So that is day 3. Dee Dee says your points almost line up. Yeah, well, not bad. Oh, sorry, my buttons will keep popping again. Oh my goodness me. Right, so it's not too bad. That one's popped. Useless. I'm going to stitch this up. So there we are. There's our front done.